Good morning to everybody, and welcome to this session entitled the MENA Strategic Initiatives to Adapt to Climate Change and Build Long-Term Resilience. I'm very pleased to see you all here early on this Tuesday morning. A very important session. Adaptation is a key issue that maybe is not receiving the same excitement as mitigation in many cases, wrongfully so, I might add. But it's nevertheless, we will give it the rightful attention in this case. My name is Andre Marcu. I'm the executive director, or something with a very long name, the Roundtable on Climate Change and Sustainable Transition. We're a think tank based in Brussels that do European and global climate change policy. We have been quite active here in the kingdom, working with different institutions, CAPSAC, ministry, private sector. So we're very pleased to be here again. This session will engage high-level policymakers and experts who are driving strategies to improve livelihoods and the socio-economic condition of the people in the MENA region, whilst adapting to climate change and ultimately building resilience in the four focus areas: water, food, land, and ocean. This session is intended to spotlight examples from existing regional initiatives, contributing to enhancing adaptation actions and building long-term resilience in the four focus areas. So it's going to be quite an interesting discussion. This is a session under track 2, water, food, land, and ocean. And we are all here. I think that people are still streaming in as we move on. I want to emphasize that some of the focus of the discussion will be dealing with things such as adaptation plan, early warning system, finance support, capacity building, technology deployment, collaborative initiatives. Again, a whole lot of things that many of you in the region are quite knowledgeable and know that require a lot more attention, a lot more focus, and very important topic for the region. We have a very interesting panel today. I think I got it again. This is me, but this is the panel that we have here. So first, Ambassador Shahira Wabi, the Director of Housing, Water Resources and Disaster Risk Reduction at the League of Arab States. Then Dr. Amgad El Madi, who is the Water Senior Specialist, the Division of Mitigation at the Green Climate Fund, and welcome. Dr. Ibrahim Dukairi, the Director General at the Arab Organization for Agriculture Development, Awad in Egypt. Mr. Karim El Jishr, Executive Director of Sustainability at the Red Sea Global. And Ms. Lara Nasser, Program Manager as the West Asia and North Africa SIWI, the Stockholm International Water Institute. And last but not least, on my left here, the future, the Mr. Omar Chise, Youth Representative, Seed Balls, Mauritania. So welcome to all of you. We are looking for a very exciting discussion this morning. The way we will run the session is that we will take the first 3 speakers, and then we'll engage with the audience. And then we'll go to the next 3 speakers and also have the opportunity with the audience on the specific interventions of those speakers. And at the end, there will be a further discussion, general discussion, and then a conclusion of the session. So first, I will ask Ambassador Wabi to give your introductory remarks. We have 10 minutes. I have 10 minutes scheduled for each of the speakers so far. However, this is an important topic. We are a more informal organization, and we like to run things and allow people to the freedom and the ability to engage as much as possible and hear speak, relax. So we do have the time. It's important message. Ambassador, please.
Thank you very much. First of all, thank you for giving the League of Arab States this opportunity to address this session, which is actually handling issues that are of great importance to the Arab region. And for the elements that is being covered by track 2, concerning land, water, agriculture, and the environment, or the oceans, if you may, the Arab countries have approved regional strategies or action plans on all of them. Of course, all such strategies cannot ignore or neglect climate change adaptation and mitigation. So they include clusters on climate change. However, adaptation remains the priority of the Arab region, since it is not one of the largest historical emitters responsible for global warming and emissions. Therefore, the region upholds the principle of common but differentiated responsibilities and respective capabilities high on its agenda. This fact does not prevent the Arab countries actually from voluntarily taking steps to mitigating climate change in response to the needs of their peoples within the available resources, of course. However, it is evident that there are limited finance options for both adaptation and mitigation for climate change in the region, and particularly for adaptation. So why then is it important for the Arab region to address the impact of climate change in these four sectors: land, water, agriculture, and oceans? I think climate change effects on the Arab region are being enumerated in all the sessions within this MENA week. So I am not going to go and explain to the audience who have heard this before in many sessions. However, the recurrent severity and significant increase in natural and man-made hazards in the Arab region, particularly in recent years due to climate change, has led to repercussions on all these sectors. The effect have increased the occurrence of severe events, drought, water scarcity, and floods, plant pests, animal diseases across borders, and environmental degradation and biodiversity loss. All which has resulted in economic and financial shock waves that have resulted in an exacerbation of food insecurity and water insecurity in the region. Damage and loss resulting from the natural and these man-made disasters disrupt physical and financial access to food, especially among vulnerable households, and contribute to imbalanced diet and prevent access to clean water, sanitation, and healthcare, and even to people's livelihood. In some instances in the region, climate change is at the bottom of some conflict. So the Arab region realized this and the need to tackle all these issues. The only way to do this was through having a transformative vision and forward-looking perspective that would address the root causes of the vulnerabilities and provide long benefits. So the Arab leaders gathering within the League of Arab States have adopted a series of different strategies. The first one I am going to tackle with is the Arab Action Plan to deal with climate change. This is an action plan that has been adopted by the summit, which means it has the highest political backing within the region, and its implementation is entrusted to a specific ministerial council, and this implementation also intersects with the work of many other sectorial ministerial councils. So collectively, this plan of action is being implemented by multi-sectorial ministerial council within the League of Arab States. So what does this strategy require? Formulating adaptation program to address the impact of climate change. So you will find the Minister of Health working on that, the Minister of Social Affairs, the Minister of Environment, the Ministers of Agriculture, the Minister of Water, and so on. Then voluntary contributions in mitigating climate change, mainstreaming the natural and human resources, and ensuring that the standard of living of Arab citizens would not be affected by climate change impacts. And these are the general principles of this strategy. Each one of them comes down into actionable things that are being done in each of the ministerial councils. So the second strategy is the water security strategy in the Arab region to face the challenges and future requirements of sustainable development. So in this strategy, it considered that climate change represents one of the most important challenges and a major threat to Arab water security. So it was placed on the list of policy priorities. The result of which the Arab Ministerial Council for Water is following up on the implementation of this strategy with the support of many specialized Arab organizations, including ACSAD, Arab Organization for Agricultural Development, the Arab Academy for Science and Technology, and many other technical hands of the League of Arab States. So within the strategy, many issues related to climate change and adaptation of the water sector to the climate change and the stress that is being imposed on the water sector, which is already a sector that is pressurized by nature in the region due to, I think the information is well known, we are one of the most scarce, water scarce regions. And so many options of adaptation, including using non-conventional water resources, water efficiency, and all these methods of adaptation that are being followed and implemented. Of course, many challenges remain in the implementation, which I will discuss later on, but it is not that the challenges are for all the strategies because they are related to structural issues related to the implementation in itself. So let me move to the third strategy or action plan concerning food and land. In the Arab region, this issue of land and food has been an issue for concern for a long time. So you will find that there are many policies, strategies, initiatives concerning food security, concerning agricultural, sustainable agriculture. A president will come with an initiative for food security, an organization will come. All these initiatives address the same issue: food scarcity, the necessity for food security, the necessity for the component of agriculture to be available: land, water, and the environment. And of course, the other human elements and financial inputs for the agriculture. So these scattered initiatives recently draw the attention of the Arab Summit. So they requested that all the efforts related to land, related to food security, related to agriculture and sustainable agriculture, to be gathered in one concerted document to be called the Arab Strategy for Food Security. This document has been entrusted to the Arab Organization for Agricultural Development. I am not going to talk about it because His Excellency will definitely talk about it, but it is ready now for adoption. It includes all the previous efforts, it builds on it, and it has a forecast for the future. So with all the details, I am not going into the details. The last point I am going to mention is concerning the disaster. The disasters, and as a result of, before that, sorry, I missed a point. A point is concerning the relation between food and the human person, which is related also to the Sustainable Development Goals, which is hunger. So there was an Arab regional strategic framework and action plan to eradicate hunger in the Arab region, which is a multi-sectoral, multi-task initiative that is being implemented within the League of Arab States in the efforts to implement the Sustainable Development Goals, and it is related to both food, water security, and social security. So I am coming back to the Arab Strategy for Disaster Risk Reduction. And this is, as you know, the common denominator among the Arab countries is not only language, culture, historical heritage, or religion, but a number of transnational regional hazards actually we share. Different parts of the Arab region are regularly exposed to geological hazards such as earthquake. We have witnessed this from Morocco in the west to Syria in the east. Volcanoes, landslides, tsunamis. Oman have witnessed several tsunamis very recently. Floods and heat waves, droughts, sandstorm, forest fires, hurricanes, and dust storms. All these disasters are in some way related to climate change. So as a result, we needed to take action geared towards these disasters. So the Arab strategy for disaster risk reduction was adopted, trying to address these things. And recently, with the initiative of the Secretary General for an early warning for all by the year 2027,
Nous devons nous concentrer sur tous les aspects. En 2007, ils ont présenté des systèmes urgents que toutes les villes, je ne veux pas entrer dans les détails, nous avons maintenant dans des villes arabes pour regarder les relations dans les villes arabes et notre environnement et aussi nos eaux et comment on pourrait offrir cela avec le changement climatique. J'étais hier dans une discussion, j'ai pris une image. Je suis soudanaise. Je viens du Soudan, j'ai pris une image avec une fille. Et dans cette photo prise, le degré dépassait et c'était dans la région qui s'appelle la région arabe. Nous avons aussi une Afrique du Nord et une Afrique nord-ouest comme le Maroc. Et en 2019, le degré de la chaleur a dépassé 50 degrés. Parce que cela s'explique sur nos bases scientifiques et comment peut-on travailler et traiter ça dans l'avenir.
I think this whole session is very much about the human dimension. All these issues that we are discussing here, things around water and food and agriculture, these are really human dimensions of climate change. Very, very real in the region. The region has been quite engaged recently. I mean, it's very rare that you would see, a COP in Sharm el-Sheikh and then another one in Dubai and the MENA climate week. So there's a real momentum in the region and a recognition because in the region, adaptation plays a very, very important role in it.
Quand tu nous parlais de ces adaptations, ce sont des mesures et procédures.
I'm happy to see more people joining us this morning that you are on YouTube right now. So just for your knowledge, you're on YouTube in English, French, and Arabic. So I will now move on to Dr. Ibrahim. Dr. Ibrahim will elaborate on lessons learned and best practices from assisting.
Dr. Ibrahim, nous voulons savoir comment perfectionner le secteur de l'agriculture. Dr. Ibrahim, qu'est-ce que les procédures prises? Et merci à Monsieur le directeur dans cette scène. Je suis heureux d'être avec mes collègues. Quand je vois les eaux et la nutrition et même les terres agriculteurs.
It rings in my ear that here we are talking about agriculture.
Ça m'apporte de parler de l'agriculture dans un mot ou dans une phrase.
I will definitely pin down everything to that level of the discussion.
Je vais mettre des points dans
the agriculture sector in our region has faced quite some challenges, enormous challenges, that I'm sure during this MENA Climate Week,
je suis sûr que dans une semaine, et dans cette semaine de changement climatique et les défis pourraient affronter. Mais brièvement, j'aimerais bien dire que la signification de la diversité que ce secteur possède ayant des autres aspects comme les dimensions technologiques et même des dimensions économiques et peut-être des dimensions naturelles. Et concernant les dimensions technologiques, nous devons travailler avec certains niveaux et renforcer ce secteur. Et cela les aspects essentiels. Et quand je parle des aspects économiques, nous nous concentrons sur. Nous avons des défis économiques. Nous devons prendre en compte, mais concernant les dimensions naturelles, nous mettons l'accent sur les défis que nous affrontons et nous avons déjà mentionné concernant ici dans cette région la canicule, la chaleur, les inondations, toutes ces ressources concentrant sur des points qui affrontent et aussi que nous devons mettre l'accent sur la flexibilité de ce secteur. Et maintenant, quand je parle de la flexibilité, quand il y a un zéro net et à l'adaptation, l'adoption aussi, je l'adopte aussi. C'est un des mots importants, un mot de clé important concernant le changement climatique. C'est le plus important aspect du secteur agriculteur, mais et en même temps, nous devons être conscients que ces défis dans ce secteur et même construire l'établissement. Je vais parler de 3 points. Le premier point, c'est la technologie. Qu'est-ce que veut dire la technologie? Qu'est-ce qu'on veut dire par ce mot? Les capacités du système. La technologie, c'est un terme important et un terme long. On peut diviser la civilisation pour certains points. Il y a des concepts essentiels. Je me concentre sur les politiques qui étaient mentionnées déjà, surtout dans les pays arabes.
Strategies, frameworks, policies. This category is the institutional arrangements that we need to deploy to enhance the adaptive capacity of the
Ce sont des arrangements importants. Dans ce secteur, il y a un autre aspect et que nous devons l'adopter. Quelles sont les meilleures pratiques? Ce sont des ressources technologiques, mais pour l'adoption, l'adaptation.
Third pillar of this adaptive capacity, building the adaptive capacity of the sector, is the capacity building. So we have
le troisième point, c'est la faculté de reprise
technical or institutional.
Donc, ce sont des
And then we
trois
have
pas.
finance.
Donc, les arrangements
All these
des établissements et
transformatory measures,
rétablissements.
whether deploying new technologies or new methodologies, that
Il faut
requires financing.
adopter
So
aussi
finance is the
des
second
nouvelles
one, but the most
méthodologies.
important one is the capacity building.
Mais
capacity
l'aspect le
of
plus
the
important
institution
aussi, c'est la faculté
and
de
also of the
reprise
human beings or the actors
pour les
in that
organisations, même pour
sector.
l'être humain,
Which means
qui
when we
joue
talk
un
about
rôle
capacity
important
building,
dans
we
ce
mean the
secteur.
knowledge,
Quand nous
we
parlons
mean the
pour
skills
la faculté de reprise,
that
il y a
enable people to
bien
engage
évidemment des
or enable
compétences
systems to
demandées
engage.
et pour
So whatever is required
qu'ils partagent et
build
faire
the
partager
engagement
ces gens
capacity,
dans ce secteur.
because if you want really to
Et ce que
adapt, you need to
je
engage.
souhaite, c'est
So that
comment
building your
établir ces
capacity
facultés
to
de
be ready to
reprise
engage
et
purposely
ces
and
facultés de
to make it
reprise
happen,
partagées
that is what is
de
required,
façon
and that comes through capacity building. And in our region,
forte.
all the
Et dans notre
strategies and
région,
frameworks
aujourd'hui, nous avons
are
des
in one way
stratégies
or
et des
another
cadres de
addressing
travail,
these dimensions that I have
et
already
aussi
talked about.
pour traiter ces dimensions
And,
que j'ai déjà mentionnées.
Also in this region,
Également, dans
as
cette
already been
région,
mentioned,
comme
a
j'ai
vast
évoqué auparavant,
desertification or this region is characterized by
nous
being
avons la dégradation de terre.
most of the desert in maybe Africa
La
and
plupart
Asia
du
is actually in the
désert
Arab region
en
in one way or
Afrique et
another.
même
So
en Asie
desertification is a serious problem.
et
We are a region of water
se situe
scarcity
ici
that's
dans
also
la
very
région
known,
arabe.
and we have conflict over natural
Nous
resources
avons des
because
manques pour les aspects et les ressources des eaux.
The continuous pressure and challenges the sector
Et
is
la
facing
pression continue
ended
que
up
cette
in,
région et ces secteurs
limited
affrontent. Ils sont
opportunities for
limites.
those living in that area, and this here
Ils n'ont pas
comes the issue of conflict over
ils ont
natural resources,
très peu
which
d'opportunités
oftentimes develop
et
into
j'ai
tribal conflict,
une
or
issue
maybe even into
concernant
political
l'escalade
conflicts, and
et
in
les
this region is
conflits
very, as we
politiques.
speak, at least in our region,
Comme
7
j'ai
countries
évoqué
are in one way or
auparavant,
another
dans
in that
notre
kind of
région,
conflict.
nous avons 7
It
villes
starts
et
with
régions.
conflict over natural resources and develops very quickly into some other dimensions.
Mais il y a aussi
But
des
in our region, we
conflits
have also
environnementaux
some lessons learned and some
et
practices
aussi
that we
des
often
pratiques importantes
mention. And let
que
me
je
just
dois
mention a few of those.
les évoquer. Et vous
The
veuillez
local
me
context,
laisser de vous dire le
the region
contexte
has also
local
quite
que la région
significant variability,
possède
so the local context matters.
une
We need to internalize when we start talking about technologies.
Et nous devons
finance,
nous
capacity
concentrer sur
building.
les aspects
We should be
financiers et
very
aussi
sure of
pour
what we are
la
talking about. We
construction
need to
des
internalize
facultés de
and we need to
reprise
contextualize,
et
because the knowledge is
regarder
wide,
aussi dans les
technology is also
aspects
wide. What is suitable for one
intérieurs et
environment is not
global.
possibly suitable in another
Maintenant, les
environment.
technologies sont
In the case of Sudan, let
nombreuses.
me mention one thing. In some areas,
dans
there
notre
are
région,
regulations
au
and
Soudan,
laws that
nous avons des
prevent use of
législations.
certain agricultural implements. Why?
Mais
Because of the local
pour
context.
l'exécution
The
de
land
l'environnement,
type dictates
notre contexte
what types of machinery you want to
local
bring in.
nous explique
That's known, but it has to be reflected seriously. That is the selection of the proper technology that you want to
que ce
deploy
sont
in that
des issues et problèmes
specific region
des
to
techniques et
make it work. So the
technologies
local
utilisées
context matters.
dans notre
You need
texte
to internalize
local.
and contextualize.
Il y a des
The issue
autres
of
causes et
capacity
affaires
building is key,
concernant
and here we should be talking along the value chain,
l'aspect de...
because also in our region,
Je parlais ici pour les valeurs, les grandes valeurs.
along the value chain
Dans notre région,
to bring that integrity.
comment nous
and to
pouvons
help the sector to
apporter
develop
l'intégration pour aider
the input
le
level all the
secteur
way to the marketing dimension. The infrastructure, when
du
I
niveau de
mentioned at the
revenus
beginning
pour
that
les
there are quite
dimensions
some challenges
des
facing the
marchés
region,
et
technical and economical,
l'infrastructure que
the
ce secteur affronte,
infrastructure at large,
c'est important.
if we take it as large as
L'infrastructure
possible, so infrastructure matters. will help reducing the vulnerability for the population, but in the sector, in our sector, the agricultural sector in particular, issues of effective irrigation systems, effective storage capacities with dry stores or cold stores, issues of taking serious steps to reduce post-harvest losses, which is very clear in our region. Those are the kinds of infrastructure that will reduce the vulnerability and will help building the resilience in that community. And finally, our capacity to adapt to the various challenges that we are facing. As I said, we need to embrace technology. Let me just conclude by saying suitable practices are very, very important. And I have mentioned
ma
part
parole
of that.
qu'il y a des pratiques importantes
Let
aussi.
me mention two things:
Par exemple,
conservation agriculture and diversification.
La remarque concernant l'agriculture et la diversification
is often right now at the moment there is a negative connotation. If you keep on doing that monocropping
si nous continuons
and fail to use the correct replacement in terms of the nutrition, helping the plant to get the
réutiliser pour l'aide de l'environnement, pour
then diversification
nous devons nous concentrer pour
in the context of small scale farming,
qui peut nous donner aussi des solutions.
Of the other practices, and then
cet exemple est important pour quand
sustainable.
Nous parlons d'une pratique importante et qui peut aider le secteur de l'agriculture pour atténuer aussi l'effet du besoin de l'être humain aussi pour le bénéfice, le profit. Que ces leçons que nous avons apprises auprès des peuples, mais il y a aussi un nombre important peut nous aider pour construire, d'établir la flexibilité concernant l'agriculture pour affronter ces défis dans les régions arabes ou en Afrique du Nord. Il y a aussi d'autres aspects. Si j'ai encore de temps, je vais être responsable pour répondre à vos questions. Merci, Dr Ibrahim, de nous rappeler pour les aspects importants concernant le système de l'alimentation que nous devons prendre en compte dans cette région. Et une des leçons que j'ai comprises, c'est la diversification, avoir plusieurs instituts et l'adaptation du peuple avec ça et différentes méthodes. Et je dois revenir ici que l'avenir, Monsieur Omar, comment vous pouvez clarifier les stratégies que nous pouvons bénéficier dans cette scène? Vous avez des expériences.
So thank you so much. So, my name is Omar.
Merci.
From Mauritania.
Je m'appelle Omar, je viens de la Mauritanie. Je représente aussi mon entreprise.
Which is led by COP28 presidency with a partnership with Yungo.
Nous avons des partenariats différents. Et concernant votre question, je me concentre sur les aspects mauritaniens. Comment peut-on regarder la jeunesse au Moyen-Orient et en Afrique du Nord? Nous avons plein de crises. Nous affrontons concernant la qualité. Je viens de la Mauritanie, une région qui s'appelle Tochot, nous avons un manque d'alimentation concernant l'agriculture, et parce que je travaille dans ce secteur, il y a des techniques agriculteurs. La communauté, le peuple affronte aussi cette crise. Dans la jeunesse en Mauritanie affronte aussi d'autres crises. Concernant aussi le changement climatique, avec comment le gouvernement aussi peut l'aider. Mais en réalité, nous devons mettre en exécution et inclure la jeunesse de différentes régions et que nous devons posséder et aussi parler de l'avenir parce que la jeunesse c'est la base importante pour la communauté, ils sont actifs, ils ont des capacités énormes et énergie pour les solutions, pour le changement climatique. De mon point de vue, notre région Mauritanie, je viens d'une ville qui a tous ces problèmes, tous ces issues. Nous avons des projets que nous avons déjà lancés, mais nous avons besoin de mettre l'accent sur les forêts en Mauritanie. Nous avons besoin de soutien et support. Et il est important aussi d'inclure le peuple local. Comment peut-on prendre des informations et comment faire leur travailler aussi sur les énergies dans ce projet. Il est important aussi, en tant que personne, comment je peux utiliser cela, comment je peux commencer, comment je peux avoir un support du gouvernement. Je crois que c'est difficile. Et je crois même la jeunesse au Moyen-Orient, on s'est issu, mais ici en Arabie Saoudite, comme le ministère de l'énergie, il y a des partenariats. Nous avons des partenariats avec l'Arabie Saoudite parce que le ministère de l'énergie a des entreprises qui travaillent avec et faire participer la jeunesse pour prendre les décisions. J'ai assisté à plein de programmes qui se concentrent comment peut-on construire et établir les capacités et la compétence des gens, des jeunes. Mais je crois également que le problème ici, si chaque ville peut faire participer sa jeunesse, il doit être parce que nous allons bénéficier de cette idée et la manière dont nous partageons, nous discutons, pardon. Alors, en tant que personne, je souhaite assister et parler avec les organisations internationales pour lancer un œil et jeter un œil dans nos régions et que j'espère que ce n'est pas aussi pour l'avenir, mais pour aussi notre jour actuel. Nous n'allons pas parler de l'avenir, mais nous parlons d'aujourd'hui. Mais ce qui concerne la participation, ces jeunes, comment peut-on le faire partager, participer? Comment vous pouvez le faire? Et de cet aspect, j'ai une question. J'aimerais bien que vous répondiez. Comment vous avez une compréhension du secteur de l'agriculture? Pourquoi je suis là et avec vous, à côté de vous? C'est une discussion très importante. Je suis pour ce programme international pour travailler et se concentrer sur les aspects de des discussions concernant le changement climatique et faire partager, participer la jeunesse. Et pourquoi je suis là? Mais bien sûr, j'ai affronté plein de défis et même aujourd'hui, grands défis. Je suis ici au Moyen-Orient, nous avons des cerveaux qui travaillent pour le changement climatique et qui donnent des solutions. Nous avons un énorme travail et nous avons besoin aussi de nous développer concernant le luxe. J'espère que nous avons une ville indépendante et que construire la ville et développer aussi le secteur de l'agriculture dans la ville. Toutes ces villes se basent sur des recherches scientifiques. Mais aussi, ça, c'est un modèle. Nous avons bien travaillé sur ce projet. Je ne veux pas dire le nom de ce projet, mais ce projet, je ne peux pas dire le nom de ce projet, mais j'aimerais bien faire participer ce projet. Et nous devons penser dès maintenant que les pays arabes peuvent nous aider vraiment. Et j'aimerais bien revenir à ma ville et laisser une trace très importante et un effet énorme. Mais nous avons toujours des crises. Vous parlez des sujets importants. Maintenant, nous allons laisser les questions au public. Il y a une question. S'il vous plaît, passez-le à microphone.
The three speakers that we have here, Ambassador Shahira
vous avez une question pour les trois personnes qui ont commencé notre discussion aujourd'hui. Je m'appelle Tarek. Je viens du Conseil de la jeunesse yéménite. Je vais pour M. Ibrahim pour la dégradation de terre. Quelles sont les pratiques importantes et pratiques dans les pays arabes? Est-ce qu'il y a est-ce que les pratiques ma deuxième question, est-ce qu'il y a un autre type pour l'établir la construction de compétences et capacités dans les pays arabes? Est-ce que la Ligue arabe peut adopter et adapter d'autres aspects pour les problèmes et les issues de la dégradation de la terre? On va commencer avec Madame Shahira, si vous me permettez, Monsieur Ibrahim. Merci bien pour votre question. Selon la construction des capacités, il y a un aspect très important, même dans les pays arabes, comme le Dr Tahiri a déjà évoqué, non seulement pour les constructions des capacités, mais aussi les capacités des organisations. Nous avons besoin de les résoudre, mais nous avons aussi des dimensions financières. Nous avons besoin des ressources.
When I say viable, I underline this word because there are so many
capables de changer et nous devons nous concentrer pour les capacités construites.
How can I say? I can't even describe them. They are attempts.
Je ne peux pas
capacity building attempts,
l'expliquer, mais la construction de capacités, c'est un aspect très important. Et nous devons nous concentrer sur ce changement, mais l'aspect et les points de faible que nous devons mettre l'accent sur. Ce que nous avons besoin, cette personne pourra bénéficier de ses capacités, mais qu'est-ce qu'il a besoin, qu'est-ce qu'il veut faire et travailler. Et dans cette région, la construction des capacités a besoin d'autres aspects de revenus. Ce ne sont pas les ressources de revenus qui sont les problèmes, mais la diversification des ressources, diversification des ressources, et il faut fournir les services essentiels pour le peuple. Nous allons essayer que les pays comprennent et résoudre ces problèmes. Il y a bien évidemment des gouvernements qui n'ont pas ces problèmes, mais les stratégies que nous adoptons fait le reflet du peuple. Concernant la Ligue arabe, au niveau, nous avons des supports venant des organisations internationales. Nous avons des stratégies différentes pour la construction des capacités ici dans les pays arabes, mais en même temps, ça commence quand on met l'accent sur le niveau d'eau. Après, nous construisons des capacités énormes, mais nous le ferons dans le niveau local et régional. Nous n'avons pas, malheureusement, mais nous avons des relations, de bonnes relations avec des organisations internationales en Chine, en Turquie, et des relations aussi avec la Russie et l'Inde. Et de nombreux pays qui sont essentiels à la Ligue des champs, à la Ligue arabe. Alors, nous savons que l'Inde a une puissance forte concernant l'information et nous avons des échanges avec eux concernant la construction des capacités. Et nous souhaitons que nous avons des programmes de la Ligue arabe. Alors, docteur, en ce qui concerne la question de Tarek,
forestry departments in our countries and forestry research. There is a handful of technologies that
nous avons des technologies limites, mais peuvent aider les gens à travailler concernant la dégradation de terre, mais ça diffère d'un pays à un autre selon les besoins. Mais il y a à peu près des cas et on a des programmes qui peuvent contrôler la lutte contre la dégradation de terre. Nous avons des programmes qui ont réussi, mais j'aimerais bien aussi évoquer nous avons des réussites énormes, mais réussites énormes, mais restent toujours limites. Nous avons des recherches concernant les villes et même dans les villes civilisées. Il y a aussi une réussite, ils ont des réussites. Même sur le plan national. Laissez-moi dire qu'il y a des initiatives importantes dans ces villes et dans notre région, comme le circulaire un cercle vert, c'est une mesure énorme pour lutter contre la dégradation de terre. Comment peut-on voyager de la mer Rouge vers d'autres régions? Nous avons des initiatives que le prince héritier l'a déjà évoquées. C'est l'Arabie saoudite verte. C'est une initiative énorme. Et nous avons besoin de faire participer des gens dans ces initiatives. Dans ce secteur, collaborer avec des organisations pour avoir des réussites. Il y a une autre personne. Est-ce que vous voulez dire ou ajouter un commentaire?
There's a gentleman here, okay. As long as we keep it short, go ahead, please. But let's keep it short because we are a little bit over time.
Passez-lui le micro, mais soyez brièvement, soyez bref, parce que nous n'avons pas assez de temps. Je m'appelle Machour Issa. Je souhaite les idées évoquées par les intervenants concernant la construction des capacités. Nous avons des choses concernant le changement climatique depuis 2008 jusqu'à 2000. Comment peut-on penser, est-ce que le Moyen-Orient, l'Afrique du Nord ont des ressources pour autres? Et nous avons des efforts énormes pour participer et partager, faire participer ces gens à ces projets.
Ambassador,
I will be very brief, actually.
Thank you, Ambassador.
I think before we make
Je vais être aussi brève avant d'établir des programmes de la construction des capacités, les facultés de reprise. Qu'est-ce que nous avons besoin? Comme par exemple, quand je vais aux Émirats arabes unis, quelles sont les capacités que j'ai besoin pour les construire et les établir? Ce que j'ai besoin, c'est la première fois, le premier point, que donc c'est le besoin des personnes de chaque région concernant la construction des capacités. Et après, il y a des ressources. Nous avons des capacités aussi énormes. Donc, vous devez faire vos obligations et après, je vais demander, bien sûr, de l'argent. D'abord, nous devons avoir une planète propre et après, on va parler de l'argent. Maintenant, vous travaillez pour le projet de la mer Rouge. Comment peut-on avoir des initiatives concernant le secteur de l'agriculture?
There you go. And I think there are slides. I assume they come in order.
Let's try.
Let's give it a try and see what happens.
First of all, thank you, Mr. Moderator. Thank you for the panelists and for the wider perspective across the Arab world.
Merci, monsieur.
I'm also from the Arab world. I was born and raised in Lebanon, worked only in the Arab world.
Je suis né au Liban, j'ai travaillé dans les pays arabes, j'étais en Oman et maintenant je suis en Arabie Saoudite. Aujourd'hui, il y a des opportunités et nous devons nous concentrer pour la collaboration. Comme dans notre entreprise, la mer Rouge internationale, nous n'avons pas des connaissances concernant les projets, les grands projets.
I believe, 7 countries.
Ces projets
on both banks of the Red
ont
Sea,
des
all the way from
cadres
Jordan down to
essentiels qui
Sudan and
peuvent
Egypt and
couvrir
Saudi Arabia.
cet
This
pays
is now a golden
frontière
opportunity for
à la mer
Saudi
Rouge.
Arabia to
Je veux
open
évoquer
to the
les
world,
opportunités
to
que l'Arabie
facilitate, develop
Saoudite
tourism
s'ouvre
destinations,
au
unique tourism
monde
destinations
pour la
that
diversification
really rely and showcase the best of Saudi
dans
Arabia in terms of
au
nature, in
plan
terms
de
of hospitality.
tourisme
And this project by the Red Sea
et
Global
la
started
qualité
5 years ago.
de
So we're now
l'Arabie
5
Saoudite
years old,
en
and we've come a long way.
plusieurs
And
secteurs
so I thought long
en
and
Arabie
hard about
Saoudite.
the segue, the intersection with the topic today.
Mais il y a un
And
aspect
I
très
chose
important.
to highlight 3 examples. So I'm going to use 2 or 3 minutes per example, showcasing collaboration to support land, food, oceans, systems
Donc,
and resilience.
soutenir les terres et les systèmes de l'alimentation et
I'm
les
going to start
océans.
with the first one. As we heard here on the left, my
Le
fellow
premier
panelists,
point que
we
j'aimerais
are
bien
a water
évoquer,
poor region,
nous avons
and that's it.
des
You know, this is
villes
a fact.
qui
We
ont
cannot
des
change
manques
that. Yes, we can
d'eau.
do some cloud seeding.
Est-ce
Now,
que nous
perhaps
pouvons
the
changer
Emirates,
cette
Saudi
réalité?
Arabia, perhaps other countries who have access to the
Comme par
technology
exemple les
can
Émirats arabes unis et
benefit from a
l'Arabie
little bit
saoudite
more rain,
ont des
but it's still not much
capacités
more
de
than
bénéficier
this much rain per year, right?
de
So that
l'eau
is
qui
not
vient
something we can depend on.
de la mer Rouge,
So any
du
development,
Golfe.
whether it's farming, it is tourism, it is
Donc c'est le
manufacturing, will
développement.
require a source of non-conventional
Et
water. We are
quelles
all
sont
at the
les
mercy of
ressources?
desalination. 99% of the water we consume here
Nous
in Saudi
devons
Arabia
nous
is from
concentrer
desalination.
sur
Even
cet
here in Riyadh,
aspect.
when you open the
80%
tap, the water comes from pretty
de
far away from the sea.
de l'Arabie
Let's
Saoudite
move to the Red Sea.
vient
On the Red Sea,
d'eau
any
salée.
tourism ambition that we have will require energy,
Donc,
it will require water, it will require food.
Pour,
I'd like to start with water. Water has to be
j'aimerais bien
desalinated.
commencer d'abord avec
Now we
l'eau.
know that if all of us practice, let's say, conventional desalination, we're gonna, unfortunately, damage the ecosystems that provide the seawater that we pump into desalination plants. We extract the salt, and then we return the brine into the sea. Well, we need the potable water. The picture on the left is now about a few months old, so now it's actually complete, but it shows the footprint of the current desalination plant. We have been producing about 10,000 cubic meters per day. Eventually, this is going to reach 30,000 cubic meters per day. Fine. We have 2 problems. The first problem is it's energy intensive, extremely energy intensive. So if Sudan can afford to do desalination, or Jordan, or Oman, or Kuwait, it requires a lot of energy. How did we address that? Well, from day one, we said that the Red Sea destination is an off-grid tourism destination on the Red Sea coastline, which means we need to produce all the energy. There's no grid, there's no cable. And so all that energy to power the desalination is coming, and I'm going to try to use the laser pointer maybe there. So if you see the square on the right picture, these are the solar farms supplying not only the desalination plant, but all the future resorts currently under construction. So energy, we chose to go 100% solar powered. It is powering the desalination plant. The second problem is the discharge. We know, and I said it, if all that discharge goes out into sensitive ecosystems, we're going to damage the ecosystem, which is actually the unique selling point along the Red Sea. The plantations, the mangroves, the corals, the crystal clear blue waters. This is what we need to protect and showcase to the world. But if we deploy infrastructure at the expense of that natural capital, we're back to square one. So how do we address that? What you don't see off the picture, I'm going to point, whoops, let's go back one. What you do not see towards there, we have some pipes which extend into the sea. Every desalination plant requires 2 pipes, the inlet pipe and then the outfall. So the outfall was designed in such a way, and the location of this facility was positioned more than 20 kilometers south of the resorts, specifically to avoid sensitive ecosystems. And all of that, and it goes out about 2 kilometers so that we have a proper mixing, and then we test the waters in a radius of 500 meters around the outfall. All of this would not have been possible without a partnership. And so these systems that I have described to you are part of a 25-year concession with Aqua Power, which is an Saudi energy company. 25-year concession whereby they design, build, operate, and eventually transfer those assets to Red Sea Global. So this is a very significant partnership at the core of what we do and how we deploy those services and infrastructure. The bottom right photo that you see is the last piece of the puzzle. When we desalinate water and we use it, eventually it becomes wastewater and it goes to a wastewater treatment facility on land. And what you see there is tertiary treatment provided by reed beds, also as part of the 25-year concession. So now we have a biomass which is irrigated from treated sewage effluent, and any surplus is used for landscape irrigation as well. So as much as possible, through a partnership, a 25-year collaboration, we're able to provide all of those services as one system. And it's important to understand the full water cycle and optimize it from energy efficiency, demand-side management, to water treatment and reuse. The second collaboration I would like to highlight today has to do with food. So when visitors come, and I believe the first guests will arrive to the Red Sea next month, because the first asset in phase 1, which is called Six Senses, is open for business as of November 1st. Our first guest will be arriving. Of course, we need food. Not only food for the guests, but we also need food for all the employees and all the workers, more than 25,000 workers. But let's think long term. How do we energize the farming sector along the Red Sea and in the Tabuk region? So there are many ways of energizing an existing food system or an existing food sector. What I show you here are mango plantations in the area of Umluj. Umluj is about 70 kilometers from the Red Sea site. And what we have done at Red Sea Global is to support the establishment of a farmers' cooperative. Our vision for regenerative tourism development is that some of the food can be sourced locally as much as possible. We need it. It's got to be local. It's got to be sustainable. It's got to be from the region. And this way we can minimize food mileage. We can also provide a low-carbon food supply chain to our guests and our workers. This cooperative was established less than a year ago. It has now an advisory board of 27 individuals and companies, including local farms. Eventually, the vision for Tamala, which is a beautiful name, Tamala, the vision is to support up to 3,000 local farms in the region, in the catchment, who can provide some of the food items so that they can source that food locally to our guests and our workers. So we have citrus, we have olives, we have mangoes, and we have many other crops. But more importantly, it's about normalizing also and stabilizing the market, the supply and demand, so that farmers can plan ahead and get the best possible price for their produce. It is about quality, and it is also about technology transfer. And we heard a lot about capacity building and technology transfer. Yes, conventional farming will always be needed across the world, but we can supplement it with a bit of technology to the extent that it is relevant and needed in the area. So there's a use case for every technology, whether it's hydroponics or aeroponics or mushroom farming. Whatever is needed needs to have a proper use case. And I move to the third collaboration that I would like to highlight today, and that is a partnership for mangrove plantation. So adaptation, anything to do with adaptation, we need to protect our shorelines, our coastline. We know that the sea level is rising by 30 centimeters in the next 25 years. That's quite significant for low-lying regions. So it is important that we continue to not only protect existing seagrass and mangrove plantations, but also enhance them if we can. And so what you see here on the picture, on the left side, in collaboration with the National Center for Vegetation Cover, we have established the first mangrove tree nursery, which means we need to collect the seeds from the region, the local varieties. We are now producing the first batch of 1 million mangroves. We have an ambition to produce 50 million by 2050. 1 million mangroves. What is very important in that picture is the siting. You cannot establish a mangrove nursery anywhere that you wish, simply because you have the land. You need to understand the tidal patterns. You have to understand the salinity. You have to understand heat tolerance. So you have to find the right location. And ultimately, this cannot be done without collaborations. So from government entities, non-governmental entities. And then we also use technologies such as remote sensing to identify the recipient habitats, because those mangroves will have to be transplanted, and we cannot plant them anywhere. We need to plant them where nature will receive them, where we have the right water conditions, heat conditions, and light conditions for mangroves to grow. So this is an ongoing effort which started only a few months ago, and this contributes to our net positive conservation benefit goal. Red Sea Global from day one said, not only are we going to avoid damaging the ecosystem, as we should, because this is the heritage, the natural heritage of the kingdom, but we want to seek
nous allons protéger le climat et nous avons besoin de développement et développer l'agriculture. Alors le mango, c'est les meilleures méthodes pour traiter l'échauffement climatique. Ça, c'est le commencement d'un voyage long. Je sais, il y a... Nous avons parlé de la construction des capacités. Et nous ne pouvons pas arriver à cela sans la collaboration et le partenariat. Merci. Vous nous avez donné un point de vue très important concernant le partenariat. Alors, nous savons que le partenariat prend toujours du temps. Et en ce qui concerne le financement, pour la durabilité du Moyen-Orient et en Afrique du Nord, j'aimerais bien parler concernant les issues et les problèmes. Nous avons entendu, il y a une invention et industrie.
And by taking this, I wanted to start to introduce what is the Green Climate Fund is. Green Climate Fund is the largest multilateral fund that really serves the Paris Agreement, and it has been established under UNFCCC for climate change conventions. And the way we operate, we serve the Paris Agreement by helping the developing countries, the least developed countries, also the small islands around the world, to be able to meet their target for climate change or for reducing the emissions. And we are not really like an investment that's
ne sommes pas des investisseurs pour revenir le terme investissement, mais l'impact des investissements et comment le perfectionner, améliorer, combien de personnes peuvent...
That in terms of like what is GCF. So we are like have been operating since 2015.
Nous avons des opérations.
We have programmed around 12 billion, 12.4 billion that actually leverage finance for like 45 billion. So again, when I back to that question, is it quality or quantity of the finance that we're actually looking for
quantité ou la quantité
and also around the globe as well. So the way we operate, we try to use our finance,
nous avons essayé de travailler de notre financement.
And the way we drive a change, we follow 4 principles.
Nous avons suivi quelques principes.
And this is how we streamline the climate change into the sector policy, the national adaptation plan,
le secteur de sécurité.
The second principle, it's about
deuxième principe,
paradigm shifting. And this is about innovations, solutions, technology.
L'innovation, la solution, la technologie, comment peut-on la transformer?
So how we use our flexibility of the financial instruments that we are working with.
C'est comme ça que nous travaillons,
grants, concessional loans,
grands
bonds, guarantees, and so on.
et garanties.
So how we use this
Comment peut-on les utiliser? L'investissement du gouvernement, comment peuvent les attracter?
We are not going to meet our SDGs target by 2030. That's not far away with public finance. So we really have to use also private finance. We really need
besoin
to mobilize. We really need to de-risk their investment. The fourth element, I think that already came across in the first round of the speakers, and that is about like how we establish coalition and knowledge management.
Comment la
That's
coalition
coming with how we build community of
comment
practice,
peut-on
how we develop
établir une
that capacity building, how
communauté, comment
we make the
peut-on
knowledge, all the
établir
information, the lesson learned
les
from all the
capacités
projects that we fund, make it
tous les
available
projets
as well. So by doing those four principles,
pour
we're looking for
travailler
projects to
sur
come
ces
to us
points et ces
from the countries
objectifs
based on their
pour les
needs, based on their
pays
national adaptation plan, based on the sector
qui sont
priorities.
basés sur plein
Unfortunately, I have
de...
to say it very clearly here. In the MENA region, we are really lacking projects from the MENA regions. And we would like to see more come to us.
Malheureusement, dans notre région ici à MENA, nous n'avons pas beaucoup de projets. Nous avons besoin de créer encore des projets comme en Jordanie, en Égypte et au Maroc. Ce sont des projets mineurs, mais ils doivent créer encore plus de projets. Nous avons des programmes différents.
3 million for each country to develop their NAP plan. And that, in most of the cases, most of the countries here in the
Et
region,
la majorité des pays ici dans notre région,
what we call it like a readiness program. And this 1 million per year, up to 3
1 million par an
so that like the
pour chaque pays. Ça, c'est l'objectif.
And also to revisit their strategy,
Et
to
nous avons
develop
besoin de
a new strategy
construire
in a particular sector they
ces
see as a priority
capacités.
for that countries.
Donc, c'est les
So we always
priorités de
encourage actually the countries
ces
to
pays
a multi-year readiness program. So
pour plusieurs années,
for
chaque
like the 3
pays
years and access the 3 million, both a very
peuvent
structured capacity building
avoir l'accès
program that
sur
really
ces
empower the
programmes.
countries to be
Alors,
able to develop like
la
a project or a
force
concept note
des
or a
pays
full proposal for us.
est
Once they do the readiness program, it normally lead to like a
c'est
project
normal,
idea. And
c'est
that
un
project
projet,
idea can come to us as a
des
concept
idées
note.
pour des
And
programmes.
we are one of the funds that we
Nous
actually
sommes
provide like a seed fund to develop your
développer
proposal. So we have what we
notre
call it project
proposition.
preparation fund.
Donc,
And this up to 1.5 million.
donc ça se
where
dépend
you put your
des
concept note and you request that fund to be able to develop your concept note to a full
pour être
proposal
capable
for us.
de
And if
faire
you
une
have the full
proposition
proposal,
à
you can
nous.
go between the minor one, it's 10 million, and then you can go for
Donc,
small
le
one up to 50, medium up to 250, large beyond 250 million that you can request from GCF. So how we assess those projects? So as we are a climate fund, we are different from development funds. So the key aspect for us is really how you present your project and present your project as it's being triggered by climate change. So we have heard from Ambassador Shahir about all the issues about climate hazards that's really impacting the region and the needs to work across water security, food security, energy efficiency, and so on. So you really need to show us the climate change happening in your country or in the region you are planning to put your interventions in. And what that hazard is, what is the impact of that hazard, what is the trend of that hazard, and is that trend how it will happen in the future? Is it going to be worse or steady or going to be improved? And that's really what we call it like the climate rationale, the umbrella. After that, we look at what is the impact potential. If your project is mitigation, so we're really looking for how many tons of CO2 that will be reduced from the intervention. And we have seen the interventions from Jasser about like those type of projects that can actually showing a very clear reduction in the CO2 emissions as well. And also if it's an adaptation, so we're looking about number of beneficiaries as a resilience. If it's a cross-cutting, we're looking for pause. The second criteria we're looking at, it's really about the paradigm shifting. And that's about the innovations, the solution that you are proposing or the interventions. And we're also looking about what is the opportunity for scalability or replicability. So the interventions we have here, is it replicable? Can it be replicated to all other countries on the Red Sea, for example? That could be one of the criteria that we look at. The third criteria is really about sustainable development. And this is where we're looking at the core benefits, about like what is the environmental benefit, social, economic, and so on. The fourth element, which is a very important, that really lead to what type of financial an instrument that you will request to support your proposal. And this is about the vulnerability of the country that you are working on. And it's not just the vulnerability from climate change, but we are also interested to look at the vulnerability as financial vulnerability. So what is the debt ratio, for example, in the country? Could that help us to say, oh, maybe we really need to give all the fund as 100% grant, or it's a mix from grant and concessional loan? And when I say a concessional loan, it's really a concessional loan because we are not really looking for a return on our investment. And I will give you a quick example what we mean by concessional loan. If it's a public entity that actually requesting this project with the country, they actually access that concessional loan for 0.25% as an interest rate, 0.25%, with 40 years payback. So you need to pay your loan over 40 years. And also you have up to 10 years as a grace period, so no payment. So you can actually put all the constructions, all the building up front. If it's a private entity, you can actually receiving that concessional loan with interest rate for 0.75%, less than 1%, up to 20 years to pay back, and also 5 years as a grace period. So this is what we mean by concessionality. And we try to use this to blend the finance or to structure the financial model for the project that you are presenting to us to be able to establish private-public partnerships that's been mentioned, and also to see what is the best modality here to fund these projects. The last two criteria, the number 5, it's really about the country needs, and that need to be showing like the project it's very in line with all the national plan and also strategy and sector plan as well. Last criteria, it's really about efficiency and effectiveness. And this is about cost-benefit analysis of your project, and also about has the project been designed based on the best practice in terms of technology, solutions, science of the art that already exists and known at that time of your project. So taking that in mind, I just would like to mention, like, coming to the main question, is it a question of quantity or quality? What we have seen from our experience in the MENA region and also in the other region, it's really the question, it's about the quality of the finance rather than quantity of the finance. So the money is there, we have committed money, but again, when we look at the implementation rate, it's very low. So the money is committed, but it's not dispersed. And that's coming to many aspects, like it could be change in government, there is no capacity, there is no team on ground, many things. So I think it's not just the quantity, we really need to think about quality of finance. And quality of finance as well, it's about how you structure your finance for the project. Because most of the development projects, when it's happened, it's operating, but once that fund stopped, you will see most of the interventions are not efficient and not delivering. And that's why, because the business model or the operational and business model didn't be included in the initial design of the project or in the development project. So what we try to avoid in our climate projects actually to look at the operational and maintenance business model for each project that we have to ensure really the sustainability for each intervention we do. Because we're looking for the whole lifespan of the project, not just the time of implementation, if it's 5 years or 7 years, we're actually looking for the whole life cycle based on the project. So if it's 40 years, how those interventions that we supported will be sustainable. And we ensure that already built in. Sometimes it's by public-private partnership, sometimes by commitment from the government, sometimes from how the activity actually generating income to make that spending on the maintenance and operational as well. And that's really to ensure that sustainability of the project. So are we able to put some initiatives that actually make a change? I wanted to reflect on one initiatives that we call it like for water security, we are talking in the MENA region, the most water scarce regions, how we make that paradigm shifting in the water sector. And we put an initiative, we call it treating water as a new asset class. What does it mean? So, and that can be applied for desalination, for wastewater, for sanitations. So any water assets, you can actually start to look at it if it's for refurbished or upgrade or a new assets. How you establish or restructure that assets. So it really need to come with 4 elements. The first one is really about the finance. How you structure that finance. So it really need to come with a credit enhancement. And this by looking at the blended finance aspect or by special vehicle purpose and so on. The second element, it need to come with acceptable revenue streams. And I wanted to highlight acceptable revenue streams because acceptable here means those revenue streams that really attract private sector to invest or attract investor or asset managers to invest on those assets. They want to see a return. But we don't want to make like a project that just become bankable for the investor, but really impact the end user or the customers. So we try to maintain affordability as well. So those revenue streams need to be in line with the third element, which is really the Paris Agreement. So they really need to show benefits for emissions reduction or resilience. And the fourth elements need to be aligned with SDGs. So they really need to show all the co-benefits for the SDGs. With this type of initiatives, we have established a program, unfortunately not in the MENA, in South Africa, for 1.5 billion project that will transform the whole wastewater reuse sector in South Africa. Currently, we try to bring this now to the region. So I'm working with IFC to make a global program for a number of countries moi j'aimerais bien
de faire un projet mondial, international dans ces régions et j'aimerais bien terminer mon discours par les numéros de ces initiatives qui concernent l'énergie, les alimentations. Et je voudrais mettre l'accent sur l'investissement ou le financement de changement de climat. Et c'est un point très important pour notre espoir et pour notre futur. Ce n'est pas rentable pour nous, mais c'est pour effectuer des changements sur le climat. Merci à vous.
Last but not least, Ms. Lara Nasser from the Stockholm International
Le dernier locuteur,
thank you very much, you've been patient, but quite a fascinating conversation and different views and different experiences. We're learning a lot.
C'était des conversations très intéressantes et nous apprenons beaucoup sur ces régions et tous les potentiels qu'on peut construire pour notre futur. Pour commencer, je suis très heureuse d'être ici avec vous. J'ai pensé sur tout ce que vous avez dit et je voudrais en parler de cette idée pour en discuter ensemble parce qu'on a parlé beaucoup sur la construction de capacité. Maintenant, on parle de où nous sommes exactement. La question est, nous sommes où exactement? Sur l'empowerment du climat et l'eau aussi pour confronter ou aider pour confronter sur le changement climatique. Et ça est le point le plus important. Et le financement et la construction de pouvoir et aussi les capacités et les politiques aussi indiquées au Moyen-Orient et en Afrique du Nord, parce que ce n'est pas la meilleure condition maintenant, surtout ce qui concerne la construction de la capacité. Et nous estimons comment estimer ces moyens pour l'utiliser dans la capacité. Aussi les changements dans la plupart des pays, comme la Jordanie, a sauté à $71 et d'autres pays et à peu près $0,6 pour construire. Je suis désolée. Donc, on revient à ce point-ci sur la Libye. Le financement est malheureusement pas assez. La Jordanie est beaucoup plus que la Libye par rapport à la qualité de financement et aussi la qualité de construction de capacité. Il y aura des taux très élevés, mais ce n'est pas seulement sur la qualité de ces taux, et ce n'est pas que c'est le bon investissement ou financement pour la construction de capacités, de différentes capacités. Nous n'avons pas de stratégie dans le Moyen-Orient et l'Afrique du Nord pour la construction de cette stratégie. Donc, quand on a parlé de la construction de capacités, nous avons parlé aussi de ces connaissances nationales, les connaissances qui se trouvent actuellement. Et quand on en parle, il faut qu'on sait comment les institutions fonctionnent. Il faut mettre des stratégies pour ça et surtout sur les compétences importantes et les rôles importants qui vont être joués dans ce domaine. C'est la compagnie de Stockholm. Nous espérons que notre région doit être stable et nationale. Je vous donne un exemple. Une partie de notre travail, c'est l'augmentation de la capacité dans les autres pays comme la Libye. Parce que le financement là-bas est très mauvais et pas élevé. Et nous voulons mettre en place un programme pour reconstruire la capacité et les stratégies. Ce qui est la discussion, quel est le plus important à se négocier avec, parce que la plupart de ces capacités, ce n'est pas seulement ce qui se trouve au bas, mais sur est-ce que nous sommes prêts à vivre cette expérience et par rapport au financement. Et quand on discute, on négocie, dans les réunions, on sera capable à se négocier pour aider à développement de ces endroits. Un autre point, je mentionne que les compétences, ce n'est pas seulement ça ne sera pas graduellement, mais ça sera ce que nous sommes en train de faire et de faire apprendre et comment pour se participer en groupe pour réagir
And we are trying to underline how
Comme c'est
hazards
passé au Yémen,
affect Yemen in three
nous
specific
espérons
areas. Usually we do these risk assessments
à donner
on a
des
national
idées sur
scale,
les
but
risques
because
qui est
we're doing it in a
confronté au
participatory
Yémen,
way, with people from different ministries
parce que si
and the
on
government,
participe
they chose with their already
avec
set
tous les
capacity
responsables
to
dans le
help
monde
us
entier et les
and try
gouvernements,
together
on pourrait
understand how different hazards are affecting
comprendre
three
comment
different governorates in Yemen, which more or less
ces risques
provide a bigger idea of how the
affecter
national scale is. So you've
le
got
Yémen
different climatic zones, different
et donner
geographical
une
zones.
idée
And after that, once we
sur ces
have all
risques
the hazards nailed down, how they
et pour
affect,
y
how the
confronter.
exposure
Et
is,
après,
how the vulnerability is,
nous
and how that
avons
affects the
bien
wash
identifié
and
ces
water
risques
and the wash sector,
et comment
we are then able, together with
ces
the
risques,
government,
comment ces risques
come
impactent
up
notre
with adaptive
communauté
solutions. And we go back to the idea of capacity building.
avec,
So it's not necessarily us having to
des
teach
solutions
someone, but if you do it in a participatory
imposées
way with them, that
pour
skill
construire
and
la
knowledge is
capacité
increased, and it's not, and it's completely localized because you're using local knowledge and local expertise.
pour développer
And
les compétences.
we have to obviously move away from the whole
C'est
idea
indispensable
of capacity building, having international
laisser
donors and
une idée
international people from the global north come to
que
the global south with different information, like a bombshell
qu'il y
on
a
different countries, having them to
qu'il y a
teach
beaucoup
them
de
how to
pays
adapt to certain
au nord
issues that might not be necessarily localized.
pour être
And I
présents,
think the
pour nous
only way I
donner
can
des modèles,
sum
des
up
exemples.
so that I don't
Alors
dwell enough
j'espère
around this is that
résumer
we
l'idée.
need more research
Nous
be
avons
done
besoin
on how
de beaucoup de recherches
where we
qui
are
se
right now in
concentrent
capacity
sur
building, but in a more distinct way.
nous sommes
So
où
ODAs
maintenant
are not enough of a distinct way to
où
be
nous,
able to do this.
et
But
quelle
we
est
need
notre
an in-depth
position
analysis.
par rapport à ces capacités
We have to talk about the quality of
avec des
finance
analyses
when it comes to capacity
profondes.
building. And I
Il
think
faut
more
à côté
so
de
we
ça
also
le
need to
financement
know
et le
where we
développement de
are
ces
with
capacités.
capacity so that we build
Et il faut
capacity, so that we can
savoir
develop capacity
nous sommes
rather than build it from the ground up if we already have that. So thank you very much.
Où maintenant dans ces
Thank you.
capacités pour le développer.
Now we
Merci.
have, according to the original timing, about 13 minutes, but I'm being told that we could go a bit over time before the next session.
Le temps
I'm in
est
your hands.
terminé.
I would like to open it to the audience.
On
I
peut
think
parler un
the
petit
initial
peu,
focus
pour
may
quelques
be
minutes.
on the latter
J'aimerais bien
part of the panel, but then we will expand to the whole discussion. So the lady
J'aimerais
here
bien
in the
donner
middle
des
first,
opportunités pour
if there's a microphone somewhere. There. If
pour
you
le
wanna
public
introduce yourself
d'y
very
poser des
briefly
questions.
and give your comments or question.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Can you hear me well?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Okay,
يعطيكم
représentez-vous
العافية.
et
My
posez
name is
votre question.
Joanna, and I work with the COP28
Je m'appelle
presidency team,
Joanna.
focusing specifically on youth engagement. So COP28 is just
Je
around the
travaille dans ce
corner, and I
domaine.
would love to hear kind of, in one or two points, what are you hoping that COP28 will
Il y a
be
2 points.
when it comes to this sector? What is kind of the big outcome you're wishing for? What are you hoping that we will try to achieve when the 2 weeks of COP is over? So would love to hear
Quels
your
sont les
thoughts.
résultats
the
ou les,
specific
toutes les
sector you're
objectifs que
talking
vous
about,
voyez
in the specific
dans ce secteur
in the
que
water?
vous venez de mentionner?
Well, if you are a representative
Sur,
of the
l'eau
youth sector, then what I'll do is I'll go to the
et
youth
les
representative first
alimentations.
because I think that's the appropriate way. But then I'd like to give
Je vais
everybody
parler
the
avec
floor,
mes
so go
collègues
ahead,
ici.
please.
Sorry, Omar, I put you on the spot.
No, it's really, it's okay.
Oh, no, we have to put them on the spot. They're fast.
Yes.
Omar, vous pouvez y répondre?
As actually a youth, like coming from, actually, it's my first time coming for the COP. It will be my first time for the COP. And
C'est
thank
ma
you for the
première
opportunity.
fois
And I
d'être
think it's
ici
actually
dans cette
we are
région
coming
et je vous
to,
remercie
learn
pour
first,
l'invitation.
learn how actually the negotiation process is
Nous
coming
sommes ici pour
and how
apprendre
actually we can localize
comment se négocier et comment les négociations se mettent en place, ici la signature, aussi les conditions et les traités essentiels.
Sorry, I'm attending these sessions, which is negotiation process and capacity building.
Moi, je suis là pour cette séance qui concerne la capacité et comment les aider à développer.
And will help me a lot for the COP. So yeah, I think that will be the thing.
Ambassador, if I may come
Désolé,
to you first,
je dois boire de l'eau.
Thank you very much, actually. This is a very important question. Because I have always been saying
c'est une question très importante.
Less youthful people should step one step back and give the opportunity to the new generations, but we stand on their back.
Nous sommes les personnes âgées, il faut qu'on nous donne une étape il faut qu'on donne l'opportunité pour les futures générations. Pour ces éducations.
Old policies can no longer serve the youth of today. Therefore, I believe they need
parce que les jeunes dans les pays arabes sont le futur. Alors, il faut qu'ils soient doit être au premier en ce qui concerne
and they are going to be the most affected by the climate
en ce qui concerne la prise de décision.
On one side, they have to be involved in the decision taking, but at the same time,
et qui seront impactés le plus sur le changement climatique plus que nous.
They have to be prepared on how
il faut qu'ils soient prêts
to increase their resilience as the future generation
confrontés ces changements à l'avenir.
Challenges they are going to face, you are going to face different challenges.
Par la prise de décisions très importantes dans ce domaine et en profiter de ces technologies innovantes.
Of the Arab region. There are some other youth who are in war,
les gens maintenant qui sont là, ils ont la chance d'être ici parce que
in many parts of the Arab region. Their voice, you should be
dans la plupart parce qu'il y a beaucoup de générations dans les pays arabes qui n'ont pas la chance
communicate their suffering.
Les gens ici qui n'ont pas de maison, ils n'ont pas d'éducation et aussi il n'y a pas de nourriture malheureusement.
I'm not sure there are quite specific COP items exactly.
Dr Ibrahim, qu'est-ce que vous en pensez par rapport à ce point?
Throughout the whole thread, throughout the whole
negotiation,
they will impact in different ways. Actually, it's a very interesting conversation. What's your expectations?
Parce que c'est une discussion est considérée très importante. Qu'est-ce que vous en pensez? Laissez-moi vous expliquer. Et je vous donne
adaptation,
un conseil qui est
technology, finance, and capacity building. I think that will also be the case very clearly there.
On doit s'adapter avec les choses qui arrivent, surtout comment. Le point essentiel, c'est que comment.
Technology is available almost everywhere. To access the technologies is financial arrangements.
Comment, parce que le financement est très important. Comment on peut y élaborer ce financement?
Our region, the MENA region, is in fact
pour qu'on les emploie beaucoup dans notre région.
There isn't really too much or too many of the proposals, credible proposals that can be financed. And at the same time, the youth here, I've just heard him in his presentation saying that we have almost knocked on many doors, but it doesn't seem like there is any promise or any readiness to finance our initiatives. Some of those are directly linked to climate change, adaptation issues, and some of them are not. But in any case, there is a need. There are finances that are available there. I have heard this $100 billion available for adaptation, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago. But not much is being released from that fund. So I hope in that COP28 we manage to put some dots on those letters so that at least make them more or less speak. We need some kind of relaxation. My institution, AOA, the Arab Organization for Agricultural Development, if I come and knock on the door of Amjad, he would probably prefer to see it coming from countries. I'm ready to put as many proposals as possible, credible proposals. But the modality says that, no, we're looking for countries. So I think if in this COP, we don't have to do too many things, but we have to do things differently. We have money available there. We have demands. We can do proposals as good as you need, but still we didn't configure that the way it should be. So I hope we do things differently in the COP28. Thank you.
Étudier et faire des recherches pour confronter des autres scénarios.
I'd like to add something on youth. My wish is that for every COP, there is a focus on future jobs.
Pour la génération.
And as you know, many of our children today, they're going to do jobs tomorrow that do not exist today. They simply don't exist yet. And in the realm of climate change, I think there will be tens of thousands of new jobs. And I think COP is an opportunity to expose those new jobs.
Par exemple, les enfants maintenant, peut-être il y aura des travaux qui n'existaient pas maintenant.
Historically,
et d'autres choses aussi.
We spoke about technology and finance and capacity building, but what about behavior change? And behavior change is not going to happen with us. It's too late. I think youth, again, they are the ambassadors for behavior change. And behavior change can drive a low carbon future.
Et aussi, je pense que on a passé de temps sur ces sujets, mais en espérant que ça sera profitable pour les générations à venir.
Not supposed to be, but it's beginning to sound that way.
Ce point-ci
I wanted to answer your point. I think
est un point de final, on dirait. Pour conclure,
I want to see in the COP applying 5 C's. What is 5 C's is? First one is to be the connector.
Il y a 5 recherches.
And that was the focus on the water sector and use, because again, the water sector is really the connector, and it's a connector between sectors, but also between all SDGs as a SDGs. The second C is really about like a collaboration. How you really build that collaboration and
Et l'autre, c'est le partenariat
all countries,
pour construire.
Sometimes we're lacking the political will to make that change, to make that transformational project, to make that paradigm shifting, to transfer that new technology, to bring
les problèmes politiques
so we really need to become the mechanism for that.
Ne donne pas assez de chance. Normalement, nous avons l'adaptation pour y travailler avec. Et deuxièmement, mais nous, comment nous pouvons regrouper tous les pays, surtout pour le secteur d'eau.
So I've been in a meeting with several private sector, and every time they say, "Oh, we received many projects asking us to invest."
J'étais dans une réunion avec les secteurs privés.
So how we become a convener that bring everyone without excluding
quand ils ont dit, on a beaucoup de projets, mais après, à la fin, ils ne parlent pas à nous. Et comment nous parlons, comment nous pouvons comment nous pouvons faire des partenariats dans les investissements, dans le financement pour développer. Dernier point, c'est la pensée collective, qu'on soit intégré avec les autres cultures. Et c'est ça, c'est le travail pour les autres générations. Et ça c'est vraiment impacte les générations en général de façon directe. Et nous ne voulons pas répéter ces erreurs. Par la prise de décision qui impacte le futur. Merci beaucoup.
On a personal level, I have a big list. But I'll give you from Fisiwi's perspective.
Au niveau personnel,
one of the big things that we miss with these big COP meetings is the connection between climate change adaptation.
Ce que je vois qu'il est perdu dans ces réunions et l'adaptation.
Little funding is going
dans ces, et aussi le financement qui n'est pas assez, surtout dans le domaine de l'eau.
To have a better wash sector plays a huge role in adaptation. And I think that might be one of the biggest things that we usually miss.
Je pense que
another thing I would really like to see as an Arab is less talk and more action. We're very good, and specifically as a Jordanian, we're very good at writing strategies and policies, which are really good, and they've honestly become a lot better over the years. But I'd really like to see them.
Comme je suis jordanise, je vous annonce que nous avons ces projets et nous sommes capables d'y travailler ensemble pour un meilleur avenir, pour la durabilité efficace et planification bien pour bonne planification pour le climat.
And we do have a little bit of time, but on the other hand, I would also like to give some
Nous
time
avons un
between
petit
the
peu
sessions.
de
I don't
temps.
think to jump from one directly to the other. So what I'll do is I will take all three of them together, and then kind of wrap that up in a final statement responding to these. So there's a gentleman at the back.
Je vais vous donner un dernier mot
you go first because the microphone is there.
Pour la dernière personne.
Go ahead, just tell us
Ou peut-être on va prendre trois questions et après on va conclure la séance.
The contact person for the COA18 Mauritania and for the African Youth Climate Assembly also.
Je viens de Mauritanie.
I will emphasize what my fellow citizens, our sisters, said about people giving opportunity in our context, especially in Africa, because that was the main discussion in the African Youth Climate Assembly about this.
Qu'il y a beaucoup d'opportunités.
But I'll go far that like the reason always about giving youth opportunities is always the capacity building and the experience thing. But when you meet the seniors also representing our government and representing our negotiation on our behalf, you'll see that the lack of capacity building in its clear manifestation, which is something sad. We're not happy with this. It's really sad. At least like you have like a new perspective of the thing and a more readiness to the understanding. I think we are in a very dynamic world, and I think all the seniors should understand this. And we are not in the phase that youth are still waiting for the opportunities to be given to them. We've seen, for example, in Yongo, we've been encouraging people to, we were asking people like to get the delegates badge and talk about them. Last year, we get our own pavilion in the blue zone,
nous invitons les gens pour y parler dans ce
and we are like emerging more and
dans
more
ce énergie bleue qu'on a parlé.
Like I hope to see this COP like
qu'on a parlé
like a systematic change that delegations should have a proportion, a quota for you in their delegations to be more inclusive. I know how hard to build a consensus, but I think this is like a good thing to start with. My question is to Omar Sisse, since he's coming like from like how to engage like youth from rural areas with all you can say about the capacity building, how to engage like youth from rural areas into like the climate change in its global understandable perspective. Thank you.
Let's try and keep the statement shorter and the question more to the point. And
dans ce climat global.
Agriculture and water. I think there's a lot of sessions on use as well.
Il faut se rappeler que notre sujet est sur l'agriculture et sur l'eau.
Thank you very much.
Posez-moi votre question, s'il vous plaît.
Sudan.
Je viens de Soudan, de l'université de Khartoum.
And focal point for climate change in Kassala State. Thank you
Je vous remercie pour cette séance intéressante. Je vous remercie tous les locuteurs pour ces discussions efficaces et fructueuses. Et mon point est sûr que dans la région arabe, nous avons beaucoup de problèmes sur l'eau, surtout l'eau, qui sont et il y a beaucoup d'efforts en ce qui concerne ce domaine d'eau. Par exemple, la technologie
compiled technology inherited in all the regions of all the Arab countries, even might be for hundreds of years. This was quite useful for those people at
et on a bien profité de ces technologies.
That they could employ it to face the problem of shortage of water. That they employed inherent
pour confronter les risques ou les problèmes
water disbursement,
en tout ce qui concerne l'eau, le secteur d'eau.
Dissemination and all these problems. So I think this inherent technology for water harvesting should be taken in account and not be neglected.
Dans l'agriculture
de l'eau, I didn't hear about the early warning system.
L'agriculture de l'eau
et
la résistance dans ce domaine. Nous avons besoin
to upgrade the early warning system.
Nous voulons développer, nous devons développer ces technologies et ces systèmes, surtout dans le domaine de technologie.
But it is might be happening in all the Arab countries. The deforestation is faster than afforestation.
Tout le monde.
So we should keep our forests because definitely this is quite beneficial for water and for agriculture. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And there's
Merci
a last
beaucoup pour votre
intervention
attention.
for the gentleman in the front row. Just
I'll just make it quick. Dr. Amjad. Just like Dr. Ibrahim rightly said, the Green Climate Fund is looking for proposals from countries.
Les forêts, malheureusement, sont moins que maintenant.
Be inclusive, particularly
Il y aura
of
plus
youths, as we have seen, there are youths that have
d'implantation des arbres.
Strategies and innovative ideas and solutions to the climate change.
Beaucoup
so
d'idées
is there
et
a
de
modality
solutions
that is going to be created in the
très
fund that's going to
innovantes
support
et
the
importantes et
startups and the
intéressantes.
solutions that young people are providing? Thank you.
So there you have the Challenger Youth Window.
Comment?
We don't have that. Lara, I'll
Comment
start with you
pouvons-nous
and
les
move
donner
this way. If we can have 1 minute,
ces capacités? Alors on va commencer par Lara.
If you want to react to
Et après, on va
the last
parler
round of
chacun.
questions or anything that you take back from today's very interesting and interactive session, please go ahead.
Vous pouvez répondre
Thank you so much.
aux questions.
There wasn't actually a question specific to climate,
Merci à vous
let's say,
pour ces
capacity
questions.
development in the MENA region, but I might want to just say one thing about the gentleman's
Il n'y avait pas de
discussion
questions
about agriculture
indiquées
and water.
bien détaillées sur
It's very
l'agriculture et l'eau.
important to also realize that because the
Mais
MENA
c'est très
region has the highest percentage of water going to agriculture from freshwater resources, that we definitely have to start moving away from moving freshwater resources
potable
This has been going on, this discussion has been going on for
pour
a very long
transporter
time.
ces eaux
It would be
potables
very nice to see how
et
the
propres
COP
pour
meeting
l'agriculture.
is going to play a role
Mais
in
j'aimerais
further
bien
enhancing that and playing a role
que
not only in
que
how
dans
water
cette séance,
is being
c'est pas seulement
managed,
pour
but how agriculture is being
donner
managed.
des idées sur comment
In Jordan, for example, and many other countries in the region,
sur la gestion de l'eau,
we have
mais aussi
a
la
huge
gestion
problem
de
and a
l'agriculture.
gap between
Nous avons un
ministries
grand
that
problème
are dealing or
de
let's say deal with agriculture and ministries who deal with water, and there's no connection. And in Jordan, for example,
Il n'y a pas de lien entre les ministères qui travaillent sur l'eau ou l'agriculture. Alors, il y a beaucoup de visions ici par rapport à l'utilisation d'eau. Par exemple, il y a des ministères agriculture qui utilisent de l'eau usée pour utiliser pour l'agriculture. Mais personne a posé cette question, comment s'utiliser, et comment les stratégies pour l'utilisation. Et alors ça, j'aimerais bien voir comment ça fonctionnait et comment on pourrait avoir une gestion à partager dans le secteur d'agriculture.
Yes, and that's happening for me anyway. As origin from Egypt, I left Egypt on 1995 and then I came back.
Vous pouvez boire de l'eau du Nil, rivière. Moi, j'ai vécu en Égypte en 1995. Mais quand je parle, qu'on met quelques conseils. Et pour mettre en place des initiatives qui doivent être très efficaces en ce qui concerne
what are the potential entities that can actually do that program for them, and then come to us.
Et en ce qui concerne les initiatives dans cette secteur, et ce qu'on a,
that really allow the country to take more ownership and select the entity that's able to deliver the project they want, and they apply to us through that process. Because the other mechanism we have,
on doit avoir de réussite de ces sujets pour qu'on puisse avoir des paramètres ou des indications bien précisées pour nous éclairer comment commencer ces projets. Alors, on donne ça à CPI pour commencer ces initiatives. Alors, pour conclure, j'aimerais bien mettre en accent la qualité de financement, ce qui est qu'il y aura des offres pour de bonne qualité et investissement et financement de bonne qualité. Et ce que nous sommes en train de rechercher, comment on peut transformer ces capacités pour développer ces pays.
And then the project get collapsed over time. We really need to develop transformational.
J'aimerais bien qu'on aura beaucoup de projets. Et on a pour les développer aussi, transitif avec durable. On aimerait bien dans la mer Rouge de comprendre quels sont les risques dans ces zones qui sont autour. Les points que nous voulons atteindre, c'est je suis heureux d'avoir quelqu'un ici qui vient de Mauritanie. Et c'est la bonne question par rapport à ça et comment construire ces capacités pour la construction et le développement. Au développement, alors on a un problème très important à mentionner.
Come to the rural areas and understand their needs and understand their perspective. Also inviting them, so maybe
de savoir quelles sont les zones hors ville, quels sont leurs besoins.
They can actually be resilient into their community and everything. I've been actually in different projects like GIZ.
Et comment ils peuvent être résistés à ce changement dans ces communautés.
How to build resilience, but it was very hard because we have kind of a mentality. I don't know if you.
Et comment construire cette résistance?
I don't know, maybe you know. So it's actually very difficult in terms of mentality. We have actually a mentality which.
C'est vraiment difficile.
And also most of them
mais si vous en parlez ou en discutez, il faut qu'on comprenne qu'on a besoin.
Mauritania, we have actually diverse culture.
De bien planifier ses besoins. Et la plupart des gens, des populations de Mauritanie ne savent pas cette résistance. J'ai regardé ici, je compare par rapport à les conférences, à travers les conférences, et qu'il y a moins de gens qui viennent de Mauritanie. Alors, mais je suis content parce que vous êtes là pour transformer ces connaissances à notre pays. L'afflux et le climat et la coordination pour l'énergie, pour tout. Pour tous ces niveaux, alors, c'est très important. Je vais terminer par ce point-ci, qui est très important. Comme il a dit la personne qui vient de Soudan, que l'implantation des arbres est moins que la simplification des arbres.
Ambassador, you have the last word.
Thank you very much.
Il faut qu'on se concentre sur cette idée.
The resources we are talking about are at the bottom of life. And I think we need the COP28 should let us go from speaking to action, from strategies to implementation. And means of implementation.
J'espère dans les conférences à venir de parler de vraiment de théorie à l'application, surtout sur les terres, et aussi l'utilisation de beaucoup de connaissances, de communauté et agricoles. Et aussi la connaissance scientifique. Je vous remercie beaucoup. Vous avez participé à ce sujet, une participation très importante, mais il y a qui est considéré fructueux pour nous, surtout cette région qui est vraiment distinguée.
And I think these are unique values that this region brings. I had dinner last night
et l'idée de famille et la communauté, c'est un point très important dans cette région. Et aussi, c'est vraiment très distingué ici et c'est un point vraiment fort pour cette région, l'adaptation avec ce climat. Je m'arrête là. Je vous remercie beaucoup et j'espère que vous avez ce que vous avez comme